Okay, another episode, another weekly wrap-up. Andres, how are you?
Doing pretty good today, Kaya. What about you?
I'm okay. Slightly sleep-deprived, but the DXP industry doesn't sleep, so how can I, Why don't we jump into our first story, which was the sort of headline story for this week's DXP report. It's from the Boy company. Give us a quick intro to this, because I find it quite interesting.
Yeah, so it's written by the Boy company, and author is Giannis Boy, and did a recap of Andre Pelesny on Content AI. Did a presentation, very interesting title, on protecting your website from marketers, developers, and editors. Which when I first saw it, I was like, "Are we supposed to be helping them? How are we protecting them?" But it was an interesting article, just recap his presentation on that, and pretty much went into how you can make your site more reliable and limit or kind of remove some of the issues that a lot of these guys might have. So that's like editors having to call on developers all the time, developers constantly doing maintenance and ththings like that. And there are a few steps lined out to kind of fix those issues.
Yeah, and I think the issues. The steps he outlines. For most people they'd be relatively straightforward, but they're kind of things that it's straightforward, but it's just not implemented, right? So enforcing tests for almost everything. Yeah, of course we do that, or we've got a plan for that, but does it actually get implemented on a daily basis? Probably not, and that's why probably forms break and URLs break and so on and so forth. Another one that I found interesting was the URL policy, right?
Yeah,
where he speaks about your CMS should only be concerned with the last part of your URL, right? And basically what he meant by that is, if you've got dxpreport.com /blog/2022, and then it gives you DXP report raises $700 billion in the Series A, whatever, right? That last part, right? That last part is readable. The CMS should only be concerned with that last readable part, basically. And he had some slides on exactly that, and the alternative being, /CS ? Content server page name, kind of like how some CMSs handle URLs. And it threw me back to wow, that's something WordPress solved 15 years ago, maybe, with plugins on. I think it was called there's a few plugins. The Yoast plugin does it, but also the SEO friendly URL plugin. There's a few of them, and I used to use them, and I used to think that's an issue that just shouldn't concern enterprises. But clearly, the fact that it's in this presentation means it's still a prevalent issue. So I want to shout out WordPress there, because this is one of the rare times I'll shout them out. They did fix this, and it was a plugin. It was an easy fix. It gave you very easy. It didn't even. It was kind of like set and forget. You'd actually just tell them the format you wanted. I'm not even sure it's a plugin. Actually, I think it was just a native part of WordPress. You tell them the format you wanted, and you didn't even have to have the whole blog year, so on and so forth. You could take that out. And just have dxpreport.com /today's news. And it would be like that. So it's interesting that, as other CMSs haven't quite caught up to just solving that from the get-go from a technical perspective. But that's my shout out to WordPress. And I've had a difficult time with WordPress over the years. I think I haven't told you a story, but I told you a story another time where Matt Mullenweg, the founder of WordPress, actually got angry at me. I think it was on Twitter. I'll tell you that story another time off air, but I had to run into WordPress. So anything else on this point, or should we move on to the next story?
I think like you mentioned, the URL policy stuff is pretty important, but I think the overall 5 points, it kind of just tells a story that a lot of enterprises and the CMSs they're using, they don't do a good job of not just content governance, but the governance of the overall companies, and that's really important for enterprises. So interesting to see if anyone can follow these tips and sort those issues out.
Yeah, I think it's a good article to check out if you're anywhere near the the content pipeline or the DevOps pipeline is just it's like good reading, and I think just like easy things to implement that will make a big difference, I think. So I like the article. I think it was really cool. New player alert, Suncell.io, new headless CMS, originating in France, I believe, and they seem very, very new. I think they launched maybe like months ago rather than even 2021. What do we know about them so far?
Yeah, so you're right. They did seem to have launched just about 2 months ago. Oh, well, technically, but we're almost December, so October. Small team from France, looking in Paris, and they basically built a Next.js LSCMS. So from what I've gathered, it's very developer focused, but in line with a lot of like modern CMSs. There's the no code capabilities for marketers, developers. They even they get their low code style things with component based stuff, and as well they have internationalization embedded as well. So I think when I was going through, it's kind of just like a headless CMS that's part of the whole Jamstack Mark movement, just kind of to cater to both developers and marketers, and in a very simple way. Yeah,
they've kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of like positioning, right? They've come out, they're developer, kind of developer first, because that's definitely what the messaging is telling me. But they haven't forgotten marketers out the gate. There's a visual content editor there. There seems to be like a drag and drop system. I haven't used it yet. There is a free version available, so I do plan to just go and tinker with it. But just based on the messaging that I can see from them, the positioning is great. Next.js, they're Next.js based, and they brand themselves as a Next.js CMS. So yeah, the positioning is fantastic. To be honest, they've gone straight to the end. They've gone straight to where a lot of these massive players who are raising money are trying to get to. Right, they're there. I'm not saying they've done a better job or they've executed as well as bigger players, but in terms of positioning, purely positioning, I'm really a fan of how they've come out of the gate here. So, and as you mentioned, internationalization, to the whole no code thing, that seems to be just well sort of balanced with the whole developer focus. It seems really, really cool. So I want to give them a shout out. I'm always a big fan of new players. So shout out to Suncell. Our last post, our last interesting story from this week was a Reddit post I found on r/webdev about the sad state of e-commerce, right? And it was basically like an agency, I think, e-commerce agency, just took a screenshot of one of their clients, e-commerce experiences on the iPhone, and it was basically covered in banners. If you go to DXPReport.com, you can find it in our latest newsletter. You can go see the image for yourself, but you can imagine the scene, right? We've all seen it. You log into a website, they've got a banner at the top, the cookies banner at the bottom, newsletter banner sort of halfway. You can literally just see like a sliver of the actual web page behind all this, banner madness. Yeah. So he was asking like Reddit, any advice? What did you see any interesting advice from them?
To be honest, what I saw was more like I think a lot of the responses, they focus on the sad state of it, that this is just what it is right now. And I think when I saw it, immediately, the funny thing is when I first saw it, I was like, wait, what's the problem? Isn't this how most sites work? So it's a tough thing. It's definitely a UX issue that a lot of these devs are going to have to try to work their way around, but it's one of experience. Go ahead. One responder who got a lot of sort of upvotes, he said basically he didn't cite the data, but he said basically based on data this stuff works, right? Which is why he's seeing it so often, right? So having like free banners as soon as you land on a page, statistically speaking, based on the stats and the data, it actually works, converts well. So he was basically saying, kind of get used to it, because if the stats work and it converts, why would they change it, right? Yeah. And I was thinking, okay, firstly, I'd like to see that study, right? Because whenever I see this stuff, I'm like, out of principle, I'm not signing up to your stuff. It's just crazy. Yeah. But I can also kind of imagine that it does work, right, for a lot of people. But then I thought, okay, where is the line drawn between putting free banners on a page works versus just purely annoying our customers, right? Because something can work technically and be successful technically
while at the same time damaging your brand or damaging, the experience in the long term, right? And I think of a metaphor for this or a similar situation, and I thought to myself, the success rate of pulling teeth out, right, is a high success rate usually. I hope so anyway. But it doesn't mean I look forward to going to the dentist, right? Just because, pulling teeth is very successful. You should enjoy it. It's like, well, no, I'm not going to enjoy it. The mere fact that it works and has a high success rate doesn't mean it's good, or that customers enjoy it, or that customers will be, excited to return to your website to order something because they signed up for the email. So there needs to be a balance there, right? Just because it works, that's not necessarily a good reason to keep doing it. That's what I feel, and that's definitely how I feel like when I look at that stuff, like personally. What do you think?
Yeah, I think one thing we have to take with a grain of salt is, what do they mean by it works? Because I've been on situation before where I've seen a pop-up on my phone, and when I try to exit it, I start to click it with my thumb. So I'm pretty sure that counts as a click and counts as So I think we have to take that it works. The data says it works with a grain of salt. I think
that's true.
But I think it's also, I guess, a problem. Like, and it's not just it's a workaround. I think a lot of people have to try to figure out, because if you think about the whole like data privacy, the data regulation things out there, GDPR, CCP, all those things. That's why all these pop-ups are out there. Google's getting rid of third-party cookies. That's why there's so many things like, hey, we want to do some stuff for your data.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of have to do it. So like, it's going to be interesting to see how a lot of companies find that balance of clean UX. This is good for the customer, but we still cover our bases in terms of data, personalization, and all those things. So that's what I think about it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. That's a good point, actually. The whole the third-party cookies thing going away is actually a very good point. That's going to definitely, I don't know how much worse it can get or better, but yeah, it's definitely going to have an impact. And I think what you just said reminded me of something Gary Vee said like years ago, which is like, all these banners that pop up. As you said, like you click on it once by accident. The marketing counts that as it means that people like the ads. He was like, you have to check how long did they stay after that. Was like a millisecond before they went back, or that kind of thing. And if you look at the image that this person posted on Reddit, there's literally not much space on the screen to scroll past it, right? So if you want to scroll past it or click the X, there's very limited space to click, So that's a real thing. It's not a joke. It's an actual real thing of just clicking on that by accident, and that would be counted as some sort of engagement. But yeah, I'm also interested just to see, like, there must be companies that exist out there that are not, well, there definitely is. Building brand, right? This stuff is like the opposite of building brand. If you went onto like a designer bag website, I can imagine, I'm not on there very often, but I can imagine that there's none of that. There's no pop-up, there's no like discount thing. It's just pure brand, Yeah. And there's two ways people can respond to this whole third-party cookie going away thing: to just over sort of optimize, try to get people to sign up, or just say, you know what, we're not going to do it. Like, at least we're going to do it overtly, like as soon as you land on the homepage. Maybe we'll do it after they sign up or buy something. But just building a nice brand where it's like, okay, we're classy, we don't do that kind of stuff. I wonder if we're going to see more of that happening. It's a risky one, but we'll see. But yeah, I found that one interesting. Anything else to add on that?
I don't know. I think the point made is a good one. They're definitely companies out there making it work, brands out there making it work. So it's just to see how in the coming months, years, because like everything in this space moves so fast. So just to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, I think that wraps up our wrap up. I will hopefully speak to you again next week, Andres. Thanks for your time.
No problem.